Welcome, everybody, to Spotlight 814, Erie's local theater podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dolly, along with my newest co-host, Kyle Philbeck. Hey, Kyle.
Hi Ryan, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm excited
Good.
to do
Good to see
this.
you. The Addams Family is coming to the Warner Theater on March 17th and 18th, and we are joined today by Uncle Fester himself, Chris Carsten. Welcome to the show, Chris.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. The first question is, were you a fan of the Addams Family before you became a part of the show?
Well, I'm not going to say I was a mega fan. I remember watching it as a kid, and I did go see the movies because it was they had publicized it really well, and I was kind of like most people were really excited about it. And I went and saw them, and I enjoyed them very much. Um, you know, Things just work out sometimes in different ways, and it never kind of fell into my lap until now. I have a good relationship with the company that produced it, and they were going to put it on, and I had to inside track to playing Fester, and now here I am doing it, and I'm having a great time.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What do you think it is about this? I don't want to say brand, but about this set of characters and the, I guess, brand of comedy that has endured for so long? And what was it that, if you will take a pun, pulled you to the material?
Well, for me, it's just when you think of the Addams Family, you think of the family and all the individual characters. You think of Morticia, you think of Gomez, Wednesday, Pugsley, Uncle Fester, Grandma, and Lurch. Those are kind of everyone. I think if anybody that is familiar with Addams Family at all could probably name all of those characters with very little deliberation.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the Addams Family, I think of those characters and how fun it would be to it inspires a lot of just fun situations, and a lot of engages you in a lot of creative ways of thinking and acting and performing. So when, as an actor, you approach that, you look at that material and think, I think I can have a lot of fun with this. And I look forward to doing that. And in rehearsals, you kind of find your way through, and things seem to come a lot easier because it's so well established, and the characters are so well defined and well written that it's just something that I think most actors would want to embrace and just have fun with. And I feel so fortunate and lucky to be able to do it.
That's great.
That's great. And kind of a follow-up on the characters themselves. And maybe the answer is no, but when you saw this as a young person, like, did anything about Uncle Fester jump out to you, or is this is he a character that struck you all those years ago?
Well, one of the funniest things, and I think probably the series draws this out, the series from the 1960s, is his appearance. They make a lot of jokes around his appearance.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can produce electricity, they get a lot of mileage out of that. When you look at the characters, they're all distinct and have different aspects about them that just make them stand out. And the way they construct their characters around looking at life in a kind of macabre way, a way that no one, just being different. And that's one of the things this show draws out, is it's okay to be different. And I think they used that dark sense of humor, Charles Addams did, to look at life in a different way, and still have fun and be complete and love who you are and have fun. Now, Fester, of course, his look is kind of crazy, and when he's portrayed, he's always incorrigible. I always kind of look at him as a glass half full kind of guy. He's very positive, he's very upbeat, but he's just willing to bring it all when he does the things that he does. It's very funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what does one normal night look like for your pre-show? Do you and your fellow company members do anything fun to get in the mood, to bring the story to life?
Well, whenever we come to a new venue, we have a sound check, and One Normal Night is one of the songs we do pretty much in its entirety, just to sound check our voices and the orchestra, and it's really fun to capture that energy. And you think of the idea of the song, it's like she's asking because she's in love with someone who's quote unquote normal,
Right.
And the Addams, consider themselves normal, even though everything they do and say may have a funny twist on it, but to them it's perfectly normal. So, and One Normal Night is a fun number to kind of play with that. And so every venue we come to, we always do a sound check, and that's part of our sound check is doing that number. So it gives us a chance to get in the mood, to feel the energy of that particular song, and get our voices matched up to it, and run the number and really enjoy it, and be ready to have fun for the night.
It's great.
And sort of going off of that, when you're on a tour like this, you're hitting different cities, every couple nights, every night, new venues, new environments. And with a show like this, the comedy is so specific, and so how do you keep that up? How do you keep up your comedic energy when you're quite literally dealing with a completely different place every night? You're dealing with different physical spaces, different backstage, and you've got to be tired as well with all of the traveling that you're doing. And being in your brain and in your body has to be key to delivering this comedic performance.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule can get pretty grueling at times, but if you are a professional and are hopefully you love what you do, and I certainly do, and I certainly get that energy from the rest of my cast members. I think it's a wonderful ensemble that we have, dedicated, consummate professionals that are very flexible in their creativity and really enjoy what they do. So that's a part of what makes this an engaging experience. Performing this material is a lot of fun. The music is great. The sets are wonderful. The costumes are so distinct and unique, and kind of different from other costumes that you wear in other shows, but it's always a delight to wear them. And when you want to come to, there's certain aspects of every theater that you go to that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be up on a stage. Most of the places, the orchestra is going to be down in front of you, and you're going to most likely a proscenium stage, and there's a beautiful auditorium. There's a lot of similarities, and I think maybe there's actors can take solace in that. The space may be different, the size may be different, maybe certain things don't fit as well, but it's largely the same. We have our dressing rooms, and we have our costumes right nearby. We know what we have to do when we get there. We've been doing it for a while. Yeah, maybe we're tired, but getting to do something that you really enjoy doing gives you an energy. Maybe you're a little nervous. That's also energy that you can use to punch up your character, to punch you up for the night. And of course, there's always the response of the audience and the chance that you get to maybe change them in some way with what you're doing. They come in, the audience comes into the theater in a certain mindset, and they're going to leave in a different mindset, having experienced a wonderful night at the theater. So that's always, food for actors and performers of all different types to feed on. And I think it really works.
Yeah. Well, piggybacking off of that, what can fans of the show, of the original TV show, expect from the musical? What might surprise them?
Well, what's going to be the same is the characters are all there.
Yeah.
And they're the way the show is written is pretty faithful to their wackiness and their strangeness and their differences. And they've chosen, because oftentimes the Addams family interacts with the outside world, and so it's kind of a regular theme, and that's no different in the musical. Wednesday's grown up, and she's in love with someone from the normal, quote unquote, normal world. And so of course the Addams family wants to embrace that. There's challenges, of course, but they want to meet those challenges head on and have fun doing it. And so the audience can certainly identify with those themes if they're at all in touch with what the cartoons are from the very first Addams families that we were exposed to the TV show, and to the films that followed, and the cartoon animated films that have been expressed. There's a similar theme with the strangeness, the differentness of the Addams and the rest of the world. and how they're going to interact. So I think audiences can look forward to that, and it's a lot of fun.
Sweet. We love fun.
Gotta love fun.
Gotta love
Especially in the
fun.
winter. It kind of chills out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously naming some similarities there, some similar themes. The characters are the same. When it comes to your character, how did going into rehearsals, doing this every night, how do you make this iconic character your own? How do you feel comfortable in his shoes? What was your process like taking him on?
Well, every actor is going to be different. You're going to take 10 different actors and have them perform basically the same material. It's because they're different actors. Each performance is going to be different. Okay. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means it's different. And you got 10 different performances, 10 wonderful experiences for the actor to get to engage in and for the audience to get to come and see. So I'm not going to be the same as people that have come in my shoes before, but even though I'm performing the same character. So you look at it from that way and you start to build it that way. You were cast because of the qualities that you bring as an actor. So the part that makes up me and who I am is going to be there. But then, as actors, you learn how to use different techniques to engage and create characters. And you bring those to bear. And one of the things is, Fester, that most people identify with Fester, is that he's kind of got an offbeat voice characteristic. So you can play with that. You can work with that. I made choice with that early on. And as you go through rehearsal after rehearsal, that gets settled in, it gets more defined, you get more comfortable with it. And it takes a lot of energy to bring that every night. Something that I look forward to. And the material is so much fun to perform too. So you read through the script and you say, well, how are we gonna do this? And when it starts to get pieced together, it kind of motivates you, it inspires you to come up with ideas and creativity and create different aspects of the character that you always try to make your own. Fester, I didn't invent Fester, right? But I'm coming in to walk in his shoes for a while and do my impression of him. Like I said before, I'm very honored to get a chance to do that, and I'm having a great time, and I look forward to it every night.
It's great. A lot of local performing arts groups have performed this show locally, like from Erie Playhouse to the Academy Theater in Meadville. There's a bunch of high schools doing it. So for like up and coming artists, especially those who are younger, maybe not as familiar with the TV show and the movies of the Addams Family, but might do the show, what kind of advice would you give them on how to embrace an existing and beloved world and putting your own stamp on it?
Well, I would suggest you be as familiar with it as you can. You look at each character and know kind of what their vibe is, and you can do that certainly by researching. You can look at the Addams Family cartoons, and one of the interesting things about the cartoons is that there were aspects of the cartoons that got defined later, like the characters' names. They aren't really in the cartoons, but like in the '60s TV show, that production defined a lot of things about the Addams Family that wasn't there before.
Right.
And so you can learn those things, study those things, and appreciate those things, understand them, and follow through with all the material that's available. Because now with the internet, you can look all that stuff up and just get an idea for what the Addams Family flair is.
Yeah.
And of course, and then you decide which character do you relate with the most, and if that's what you want to audition for, then emphasize that, and hopefully you get cast. Hopefully you're successful in doing that. And I'll tell you, if you're gonna put on the Addams Family, it's going to be a fun experience because it's very funny. It's wonderful material, and it's got so much going for it. And it's got a lot of history behind it too. So just know your stuff and then have fun.
Yeah, that's great advice.
That is great advice. Yeah. Are there any themes and takeaway? I mean, you kind of mentioned it's okay to be different, which I think is a great one. Are there any themes and takeaways from this show that stick with you personally, or that you find are sticking with audiences?
Well, audiences probably come in with a a certain a predisposition. I think that if they're familiar with the Addams families and what it's about, they came in and paid for the tickets with some expectations and hopefully an open mind with how this particular version of the Addams family is going to present itself to them. I think one of the large themes about that works so well for the Addams family is, of course, dare to be different. Be comfortable with who you are, and live your life to the fullest. And that's something that each and every member of the Addams family tends to do. And when you're going to beat to a different drum, embrace it, own that. And when you encounter someone that is different from you, don't be afraid to express yourself. And that's a great theme, I think, that comes across in the Addams family. Relationships and how relationships can be fun, and how different points of view can still communicate and find a way to understand one another. I think that's another important aspect of what the Addams family brings to the table. And I think our production expresses a lot of that as well.
That's great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
I think it also, like,
books
oh,
are
sorry.
being it's okay. Books are being banned for that, so it's great that you guys are doing that and, like, putting that message out there. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna just say, I think the musical does a really great job of, I think the relationship between Gomez and Morticia is so, it's weird, it's dark, it's different, and yet they have such a strong marriage, and
Yes.
it shows the family dynamic. Again, just weird. Like, you have that song Pulled where she's literally essentially torturing her brother, and yet it's like a bonding experience for them.
Yeah.
It's like it's fun, and
it's hilarious.
yeah.
It's dark humor, but it's hilarious. And the Addams world tries to exploit that at every turn, every opportunity they can find to bring that out and find the humor in it. It's always a winning combination.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a very twisted, kind of wholesome.
Definitely.
Yes, it is. Like, there's a song between Morticia and Alice Beinecke, where they're talking about how a marriage works. And so Morticia says, "You always tell the truth," and Alice is like, "Really? I want my marriage to be a long one. If my husband knew everything about me, I don't know if we'd stay married." And so they find their way through the course of the show to come to a better understanding of those two aspects of how people approach relationships.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go
move on to some
let's do some crazy stuff. We're gonna get into the crazier than you rapid fire questionnaire. Okay, so the first question for you is, what is the craziest audition story?
Crazy audition story. Oh my gosh, what is the craziest audition story? I think I don't know about how crazy it was. It was kind of embarrassing, but it's memorable. I've had to audition for a production of Godspell, and the character I was auditioning for had to sing some high notes, and I was pretty young at the time, and I don't think my voice was as well developed as it needed to be. And I went into the audition, brimming with confidence and hope, and tried to hit the high note, and it didn't come out very well. And
we've all been there.
It's kind of a learning experience, but it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Not so fun, but crazy.
No.
Definitely all been there.
I crashed and burned a little bit on that day.
Yeah.
God, what is your craziest tour experience been so far?
Craziest tour experience. Well, let's see. One of them was it was just recently. I did Little Women last year, and we were in the middle of the show, and one of the main characters was having some issues, just not feeling well, and didn't think she could continue. So in the midst of all that, the understudy, they grabbed the understudy who was also in the show. They threw a costume on her, and she had to make an entrance practically in the next scene with me. And so they threw the dress on her, and they said, "Okay, talked her up, got her ready, pumped her up," because she was really nervous. And actually, I think she may have gone on with the script a little bit, but our scene went fantastic, and she actually did a great job. She stepped in, and it was like, literally they grabbed her, threw a dress on her, and pushed her onto stage.
That's
It
one of the
was-
hardest things to do.
it was actor's nightmare for sure. But she was really well prepared. She knew the
Yeah.
role,
yeah.
and you know, it was just kind of shocking, but
Yeah.
it worked out, and it was an amazing thing to experience. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. How about the craziest onstage mishap that you can think of?
And the last story doesn't count.
Yeah. Last one doesn't count.
Well, let's see. You know, actors share stories a lot about forgetting their lines.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me occasionally. We were at a theater a couple of years ago doing a show, and there was a tornado warning in the area, and so our stage manager wanted to not do the show, and the sponsor was there, the promoter was there, and he said, "No, you're going to do the show." So she had said we're not doing the show, and then 5 minutes later said we are doing the show. So we all got prepared and did it. But as to commemorate the show, we all decided that everyone has to do a twirl to represent the tornado that was coming into town. So for me, I'm not much of a dancer, but I knew what I was going to do. I had it all planned out. So I made my entrance, and I looked at the actor that I was supposed to make eye contact with first. And as I walked past him, my eyes stayed on him, and I twirled around. And and then I go to deal with the next character, and I'm supposed to have some distance between the two of us. And ended up, I was right, her face was right here, because I didn't judge the twirl very well, because I'm not much of a dancer, as I said before. And I forgot my line. It startled me so much that I forgot my line.
Yeah.
And whatever came into my head is pretty much what I said. And this actor, whose face was right in my face, she was a consummate professional. A really talented actor. She burst into laughter in my face, and all the other characters that were on stage had to practically turn up stage to hide their laughter. My friends that were on stage never let me live it down. It's pretty funny.
Did you get a note after that performance?
Well, I think the stage manager canceled the twirls going forward.
Okay.
But no more twirls for the rest of that performance, and that was all my fault because I couldn't handle it.
Come on, Chris.
Get your tornado twirl together.
Yes.
Man. So this is a little bit different, but for Addams Family, obviously it has a very distinct look. What has been the craziest cosplay outfit you've seen in the audience or at the stage door after a performance?
Well, and this again happened just a few venues ago. A guy came to the show. It's not actually, a group of people came up dressed as characters: Morticia, Gomez, and there was a Fester. And I didn't have my contact lenses in, so I can't make out the audience. I don't have really terrible eyesight, but it's a little blurry. I can't make out the audience as well as other people can in the cast. And everybody kept coming up to me during the show and saying, "There's a Fester. There's a guy dressed as Fester out in the house." And at the curtain call, I kind of looked out and saw him sitting there, and then met him after the show. Went up and shook his hand and said he thought the show was great. And he was a very tall man wearing this black leather trench coat. And of course, he was bald, and he kind of painted himself white, so he had that ghoulish Fester appearance. But that was a fun experience to meet myself in the audience.
Did he have the light bulb in his mouth?
Yes, he did have a light bulb.
Nice.
His actually was a lot better than our light bulb. It's lit up really brightly. Ours is kind of feeble.
Yeah.
It was great. It was fun to meet him.
It's been around. That light's been around. So we got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So if Uncle Fester were to commandeer the Addams Family Mansion for one night and throw an absolute rager, what are 5 songs that he would include in his crazy playlist?
Oh my gosh. 5 crazy songs for man, I am not up on the party songs, but I'm sure it would be any. Man, that's a tough question for me, because I'm pretty mellow in the kind of music that I listen to.
Yeah.
But Fester's pretty out there with the stuff that he listens to. I think from my perspective, I mean, it's not much of a song, but of course, it's pretty much cliche. I'm sure for me, you'll probably pick Monster Mash.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's something that a lot of people do. What's that one from the Transylvania Hotel? I'm in love with a monster. I think that song's a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Man. anything monster related. I can't come up with five.
Thriller.
I think that's probably the best two that I
Thriller,
can come up
Thriller,
with.
yeah.
But I'm sure there's plenty of crazy songs out there that he would come up with that he would do.
Well, that's good. We got three.
You got three?
I'll throw in Bloody Mary by Lady Gaga from the Wednesday show.
Oh yes.
We'll throw that one in there as well.
Yes.
Perfect. That's
Yes,
good playlist.
that's fine. We have one more question for you. It's the most important question that has appeared in this interview. I want you to think very, very seriously about this.
This is the most important question we've ever had on the show.
Honestly, it's very deep, very prolific. How do you, Chris Carsten, feel about the moon? How is your relationship with the moon?
Very deep, very complex, very complicated. I, of course, am in love with the moon.
Okay.
And hope to perpetuate a relationship and have something very deep and meaningful. The moon is the round orb of love for me. I think it's so fantastic.
And you have that in common with your character. That's something.
That's right.
That's wonderful.
Yes, I'm very passionate about the moon.
I love that.
I'd like to go up there and take residence up there.
Yeah.
I would love to as well right now. Yeah.
At this point. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. You've been a great guest.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we're looking forward to coming to Erie. That's a great theater and it's a great town.
Yeah. Warner Theater, 17th and 18th. So that's Monday and Tuesday.
Yep.
And we're going to see you there Monday night.
All right.
And we'll stop by the stage door and say hello.
That's great. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye, everybody.